Hey everyone, welcome back. Now in this video it's just a bit of an update on what's happening with my Cosmo and a general explanation of what's happened the last few months. Now I was filming probably the start of January, filming some stuff for this car, and the motherboard on my phone fried and it took out the whole phone contents, like photos, videos, contacts of the last 10 years and corrupted all the memory cards. So I've lost a tremendous amount of footage for this car and the 33 GTR that I just finished. So I'm going to be putting together a video of whatever footage I have for this car, and I've done a fair bit since then. The car's been obviously blasted and primed. I've made the door skin, or roughed it out. I've got these side panels made. I've got the sunroof set up back in and screwed in place. Finished all the drain set up for it. I've made the pillar surrounds and I've started on both sides for that. But yeah, the footage cut out when I was making the bonnet Rio and the nose cone and bonnet catch area. So I'm a few months behind of what I actually have posted. So this video might be pretty jumbled up and confusing, but I'll add little explanations in text of what's actually missing and stuff like that. But I've obviously got these side pieces being made for the vents. This pillar piece started this side, so I've got to continue on and do the rest of this and make the little die through the divots for the chrome. It sits over the top. Also made the taillight surrounds for Richard's car. They came back from the chromers and they were really pitted in the surrounding areas, so I've repaired his ones and I've made a set for myself out of stainless while I was there. So I do have footage of that. I do have a fair bit of footage of the door skin, making the handle piece, like hitting all that in. But yeah, I've lost a lot of footage. So just bear with me if you can. And from here on, it should be smooth sailing because I've got a 10A RX3 coupe in for the next job. And I haven't filmed much, if anything, for this at all. So I haven't lost anything. I've got a brand new phone and another backup hard drive and stuff now, so I'll be learning to actually back my stuff up, because yeah, this one actually really hurt me. So yeah, that one is to come. I've lost a good chunk of the first half of the 33 GTR, so I'll be posting another little bits and pieces one of what I have for that. I have made a new sunroof lid for this, so that's just roughed in place and sitting there. And I have most of the footage of making the drain tray and stuff like that. So I have made the rear piece for the window, which goes on the inside of there. But I really want to check the back window first, because there's a little bit of discrepancies here, and I don't know if they've forced the car down when they've removed the window. So I just want to double check that with the window before I weld that piece in. So anyway, enough rambling from me. I'll start rolling some clips, and I'm pretty sure I have the making of the majority of the sunroof and the install. I know I have the complete making of the taillight surrounds from scratch and repairing Richard's ones. So I know I have that footage, but yeah, I've lost, say, from late December onwards. So the last video I posted on Richard's car was the last time I updated stuff to the computer. So anything after that is lost. And also whatever was on my phone. So yeah, the last 10 years of anything on my phone that wasn't on the memory card is gone. So I'll probably come back on socials maybe in a week or so. I just wanted to really rip in and get the 33 GTR done. So now I'll probably come back to it and get all my contacts and stuff back. So let's get into it. Also picked up new rears for the Cosmo, so 13x10, 6-inch lips. That should fit on the back of here. It's got to shorten it probably 30mm more. So I run a 30mm spacer behind that. It's got 4-inch lips. So ridiculous. So I'll shorten that another 55-60mm, and I'll move the cradle up another 100 while I'm there, because yeah, I just want to get the arm angles as best as I can. There's not really much diff and axle clearance under there as well for this MX-5 cradle, so I'd rather just move it up as much as I can. I've got the room in there. Doesn't need to be anything everything there except for fuel tank, so I can afford to come up a bit. And leave the stock wheel tubs as well, which is the best. Shouldn't have to touch those at all. It already looks so ridiculously short, so I'm going to take another 130 out of it. Narrow it down, ready to go back in. Well, it looks ridiculous. And that's the maximum you can shorten that cradle. It's pretty much butted together. Why do I do these things? So ridiculous. So I raised the cradle up another 65mm as well. And I've got the front to do, so I'll raise the front one up a smidge more just because I want a little bit better arm angles than what it has. So I may as well, while I'm here, while it's only all stitched in. I just got tyres fitted and yeah, look awesome. So 235/45, pretty big. And I've just got to move the wheel tub inwards now, so I just got to slit the wheel tub here and just move it in, just give it a bit more clearance. And the easiest way to do the tubs is just do split tub style, so just go 10mm off, get rid of all the sealer, trim that out, and then that tub will go across and you add a section in. That way you can leave the inner tub there because that's a bastard of a shape and there's no need to change that. I've got clearance there because it tugs right tight to the quarter. So yeah, I'll just move that across there, and on the inside on the parcel shelf I'll be able to cut along that square, and then that whole section will move across and it will just be a strip. Depends how rough you want to be, you can freehand it, you can just run a bit of tape around there, give yourself a good guide, and continue on the inside. So you trim just that little edge down and do your square, that whole section will move across. And once the front's all loose, all you've got left is the boot stays, so you just take an educated guess of how high it's going to be once it lays back on top of the tub, once that section moves over, so this won't exist anymore. So that's all trimmed out now, it's loose, the boot stay is cut, just one spot weld hiding right there. So there's actually two spot welds on the parcel tray. So that's it. So ready to just move that directly across by adding a strip. Sweet, so wheels back on. Just got my RHS in there to set coilover height. I've obviously got heaps and heaps of room to come up another 100mm before anything even came close to hitting. So yeah, that's awesome. So I want 50mm under the sill, so probably lower it a smidge more, but yeah, we've got plenty of room under here. Got another whole 100mm before anything would even come close to hitting anywhere. And pretty much zero camber, no stupid camber to fit anything. The inner arch is nice and tight there, so I could even, once it goes up more, I could wind the top arm out even more so it sits on zero. Happy days. And once I build the front wheels, the matching Mark III front pair, I'll put the matching AR1 tyre on this, 175 50s, just to get the profile down a bit. It's a bit ginormous. But as you can see, I've got a 30mm spacer behind this, and they fit with ease. So yeah, I've got another inch of lip I can add on these, so I'll probably run 5-inch lips on the front, and yeah, 6.5 on the back. So I'm going to pull this off the hoist now because I'm waiting on a gearbox. So as soon as I get a gearbox, I can mount the engine. So yeah, no point it being on the hoist now. I'll put a customer's car back on the hoist and continue my week. I'll touch this again in a few weeks. So I think the rears ended up being like 13x11 or something, with a 235 45 semi-slick. You can't really see, but the arm angles are really good in the back. So the body drops, 150mm body drop, and then I raised the cradle and rails up another 60 from there. So it's on the ground, but it's got stock arm angles all round. And then with the front, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to move the front up another 50 for the cradle, once the rails and stuff all get remade. But yeah, should actually drive really good, despite being absolutely railed. And I think the front was a 9.0, but it's got a 30mm spacer behind it. So yeah, it's a waste of an inch there. So I'll build the new wheels to suit, and front arm angles are good as well, but I just like to go up it just a smidge more just to get it all flat. And that's thanks to the drop knuckles that I made for the car all around. And as for exterior panels and stuff like that, I don't have doors at all. I'm bidding on a rear screen at the moment. It's very, very expensive. for the rear screen and trim. I do have a front window, no trim for the front window, so I'm hoping my mate Jay comes through and he knows of another one over there. So apparently unrepairable and complete. So if I can grab that, I'd be absolutely cheering, because I'll grab the doors off it, all the glass, all the trims and stuff that I need. But as for now, I'm just piecing it together bit by bit, bidding on a set of full tail lights, upper and lowers, and yeah, whatever I don't get, I'll just make. So yeah. So went on a little road trip, pick up this Alpha Sud. Never seen one before in my life, but it has a metal sunroof, exact same as the one that's in my coupe, but it's manual slide back, no motor. But the overpowering rat piss smell of this car is crazy. So I'm going to get some gloves and take this roof off. This blew me away when I first seen it. Tie rod all the way up there, and then the disc brakes are inboard, so if you lose an axle you lose your brakes. Pretty crazy. You know, the entire sunroof is jam-packed with little newspaper and stuff, so I think the little rat packers have made themselves a little mansion. Nice. But then I also got this thing with a wind-back sunroof, so I'll see which one I want to put in. So I got the sunroof stripped down, pretty rotted on the lid, but thankfully I'll be remaking the lid to suit. Pretty smart design, exactly the same sunroof as my coupe. So yeah, same Hollandia. This is just a manual version, so mine has an electric motor here with an endless screw that pushes this up, whereas this just rolls on little tracks, and it's unlocked with just like a little pull handle at the front there, which locks it into the sides. Pretty smart. And then I wondered, how does it lift the sunroof up, because my motor pulls mechanisms here that like lifts it up against the roof, and this just runs on little nylon guides, which is pretty cool. One is snapped, so I have the nylon piece, but that's actually snapped there, and that's why it was low on one side of the roof, I did notice. And yeah, that explains it, but pretty cool. So I'm going to strip it down a bit further, because I've got to shorten this lengthways. I've only got about 700 max to play with, and this is about 950, so my opening is going to be a lot smaller. I found it strange that they ran like an external piece that sits on top, and then they rolled the lips each side to go to the frame, instead of actually turning the original roof skin. It's a bit bizarre. My style one, it actually turns the original roof skin onto it, but this one they run a piece on top, which has obviously caused a lot of rust issues, because the water just gets trapped under that, and the frame also extremely rusty. So it's going to require some work. This also gives me an indication of where the rubber sits on there, and it actually sits off the sunroof, so when the sunroof's shut you just see metal, and there's actually no rubber that sits against it, which is awesome. That's actually exactly what I wanted it to be like. I thought that the rubber sat hard against and there was just like a little tiny little strip there, but it just shows that it's actually not, and it kicks back up, which is awesome. So then it's just a full metal top, and there's a minimal black that you can see. So same setup as my coupe sunroof, it doesn't open the whole way, but my coupe's one I extended the base tray so I'd get that extra 100mm, because I can't stand this sunroof opening not being the whole sunroof opening. That really bothers me. Whereas this one I'm shortening it down, so I'm going to take 200mm off the opening size and the frame. So I can only have a 300 opening, which is about there. So yeah, if I change the frame size by taking 200 out of that and 200 out of this, should be sweet, and it should have full size opening. So they did turn the original roof skin, but they must have stuffed it up somewhere, because they put another skin over the top of it. So I'm sure I'll discover maybe they cut the corner short or something. I'll soon see, but I'm curious. I've never seen the layer on top trick before. So yeah, they didn't stuff it up. They turned the lip on the original roof skin fine. There's no issues there. I did wonder why there was a little join here in the middle, and it's stainless. So this must have been polished up and just been like a stainless shiny trim, which is pretty cool. So that explains that mystery. I thought they might have stuffed up the roof corner and then thought, oh shit, we'll just chuck another layer on top. But no, they did it right. Now, as cool as the wind back one is, it is so heavy. So I'm going to take the original roof skin off and then to see what weight I can remove off this thing. I only like it because it's more curved at the front here, and I think that will suit the Cosmo roof a lot better than a square sunroof, because the front of the roof is curved, so I think it would suit it a lot nicer. So I'm going to see. Wow, so it was actually the roof skin itself. It's like 1.5, it's thick. And then the support for the sunroof itself, so heavy. This is incredibly heavy. There we are, side by side. Now from memory, I think this one is too wide, so I thought I had to section it in the middle as well. Just got to double check. Didn't realise the sunroof was actually tapered, so I've got to fix this up now because I've shortened it 100mm. So this sunroof needs to be bent in the middle, as I've done with the Rio. So I've just got to tweak this all up, 10mm overall, and then I can worry about fixing the back in, adding the drain pan, and then I'll just tee the drain into this quarter vent tube, which runs down into the quarter there. And the front one the same, just run it down in the pillar. So I've drilled these pretty heavy duty braces off the sides over here, and my plan is to take the sunroof lid out and then clamp it either side of this press, and then I just pump up the center, and if that doesn't work then I'll slit it little pies and let it come up, open that gap up and weld the gaps up. But I'll try and bend it first, see what it does. So hand cut my rails because I don't have a plasma cutter and I can't be bothered waiting for a laser cutter to dick around. So just hand cut them all, clamp them together, make sure they're all the same. I've just marked my crossmember holes in all of them just by using a little notch in the plate, and then transferring it over with a square. So you tack the top 50mm strip on everywhere, just keep making sure it's all square and that the gap is perfectly even the whole way. 1mm or half a mil off there will shoot this off like 20mm at the other end, so just gotta make sure it's all perfect and square. I made rails probably 12 years ago in my parents' carport for my little 1000, and geez, not welded to the bench, they just moved, the whole rails just go like this. It's terrible. So I got both rails to the same point, and now I'm just going to drill these holes out for the crush tubes to hold the crossmember, and then you put these little spaces in there in the rails, evenly spaced. Sweet, it's all tacked together now and it's given a buzz, so they're bolted together to show that they are exactly the same. So I'll start welding them up now. Maybe now, maybe in the morning. It's pretty hot today, and it is 5 o'clock, so I don't know, it'll take me a few hours to weld these up, so I don't really want to be here till night time. Might just go inside, do it in the morning. I'm just seeing how much gas I've got left. I haven't got much left. I'm just seeing if I can run out tonight, so just done top and bottom on this, just one big zap, and flip it over and do the other side, and then unbolt them, flip them around, do the same. So that's only 2 of the 8. Yeah, I don't know, I think the bottle will probably run out, but if I can use it all tonight, then I can get a refill tomorrow instead of running out tomorrow morning. That'll shit me, because then I've got to go stop what I'm doing and go get a bottle. Sweet, so they're fully welded now. Just going to give them a sand up. So they're all welded and sanded up now, ready to go back into the car. So I've just got to prep the car now and start putting them in. So now that the rails are made, I'm just going to jig the cross member up in height. It's still bolted at the back there, and then just hack away all the rest of this rail there and just leave the towers. So all I want to do is just leave the towers tacked to the skirt and then held on by this secondary layer there, but I'll be getting rid of all this. So I've got the rail sitting in place. Rails do go in, but I can see a little gap under here which tells me this still needs to come up a smidge. So I've just got to trim a touch more off this top edge, let it lift up, and that way these rails are going to continue down through the back. So that's why it's not connected fully there. It's just going to tie into the floor, but the chassis rail is going to connect front to back when I make the back section of the rails. So just unpicking like 50 of the layers that are there. So much seam sealer and stuff there, but the tower actually is bolted to all these layers. So once you undo the nuts, get rid of all these spot welds, I should be able to drill and tap into my rail, and the tower will actually be bolted on and welded. So that's one rail in, it doesn't even budge. It pulls the whole car with it, and it's not tied on at the front at all yet. So awesome. And getting rid of all those layers there, let the tower be pulled across and actually meet, which pulls it over here, which actually makes it even more factory looking up in the skirt. But I've got to redo all this sheet metal up here anyway, so I'll probably recreate it from here and then tie it into the rail. And that's it, all tacked in the car. Got it as close as I can get it with the digi. Everything reads correct, but I still want to put this thing on a chassis table once I've got the rear rails in, and then just see what needs to be tweaked here and there. But it all seems to measure up correct. But I know that the body has got a little bit of a twist here. There's a big crease in the front nose cone, and this is not meant to swoop outwards like that. When you lift the front up, it wants to go back to its natural spot. So there's a lot of repairs on the body to still happen. So yeah, still waiting for the gearbox, the 6-speed, but I've got a front cover, so I've got to put the front cover on this engine and then sit it in with the gearbox, and I can make my mounts and actually finish the cross member. The cross member is just all hacked out just to see what was needed to fit it, and then yeah, once I get the gearbox mounted and in the car, I can do a pedal box, I can do seats, and I'll probably do the rear rails at the same time. Now this is just all roughly tacked in place because all this has to be remade. Like, there is nothing left, it's all going in the bin. It's just all loose and junk. So just swapping the timing cover over to the front mount so that I can mount the engine. So the 12A front cover has this further forward, and the sump is actually longer at the front there. I didn't know that. So it just means I've got to remake this sump, which isn't bad, it's only tacked together. So yeah, it just has to be extended at the front here. It's got to come around more of a shape to match the back instead of flat. Alright, so front cover is on. Now I can make a mount here that'll tie in up to here on the cross member, but I'll wait till I get the gearbox, because I still haven't got the gearbox yet. So I'll wait till I get the gearbox so that I can get that in the right position where I want. I can still move it further back if I want, further forwards, but I think right there is pretty much where I want it. Basically whole motor behind the towers. I've just dried the shed out and now it's flooding again, so not good. Everywhere is soaked. Damn it. So I made a new bonnet Rio because I don't like how Mazda bonnets open in reverse. I think it's really ugly. So I'm just going to make this one open like a normal bonnet. So it'll be fixture points here, a bonnet latch here. So I've got the hinges bolted in because I've just got to make sure that I can tweak their position if I have to. I don't want to weld the bracket in, and then I'm just going to measure back off the lip here and then the hinge bolt itself to get the spacing needed to drill the holes in the rear. So Biden just came past and checked out his Cosmo and brought a box of stuff that I've ordered for my car. So I've got like boot lock, door handles, whole headlight assembly, a few other parts. I'll unbox all that. So yeah, headlight assembly, door handles, and the boot lock as well. So awesome. I wouldn't have thought the headlights are flat factory inside that little enclosure. I would have thought they were domed like normal headlights, but there you go, they're flat. The door handles are unique, so I know they're correct. They actually have the lock in the push button. Whereas the boot lock is not the right one, so I don't know what they've sent me here. They must have got it mixed up and thought it was a boot lock for a Cosmo, but I think it possibly is R100 because it's too big. It's much smaller, the factory boot lock. I'll never get it back out of there. Yeah. So I think it actually is R100. I'll try it in that. So yeah, back home now, and I've got to do these final pieces for a Richard car. I've got to do these taillight lenses. They came back from the Chroma, no good, very pitted, very sad. So I've got to remake sections for these to repair these, and make a set for my car while I'm here. So do a set out of stainless for my car, save making it out of mild steel and getting it chromed. So yeah, this way has been hours of linear stretching the corners, and it's just a nightmare. It still needs so much more stretch. I'm thinking it'll probably be easier if I cut that outside perimeter shape out, make the die, imprint that into it with the pullmax, and it's already that shape. It doesn't need to have any stretch done to it. Make the centerpiece separate and the back piece separate, so 3-piece instead of 2-piece. I think will be the go, because yeah, the hours that I've spent linear stretching that over, it's just a nightmare. It doesn't need to be done either, because then I'd still have to run the die on it the whole way around anyway, whereas if I just chop this perimeter out, it still leaves me the back piece enough to cut that in, and now I've just got this little rim separately. I know it's another full perimeter weld, but I still think it'll be quicker than trying to do that manually. So there's my blanks. It's attempt number 1. It's attempt number 2. Much better, much sharper. Just needs a tiny little bit of playing here and there, but I'll do these other 2 blanks the same. Obviously after shaping it with the machine it warps, and then after cutting it warps even further, so I've got to straighten it out. So one is straightened just using the hammer on the rubber, just to not dent it in or anything severely. But sitting on there really good, enough to start making the next piece. See this one way off, really warped. And yeah, just using the hammer into the rubber. Stainless will take quite a beating before it dents or anything, so you can manipulate it into something soft like this. That's probably as naturally resting as I can get it. I know it's going to warp like crazy once I weld it, but yeah, that will do. So I'll do that for the next 2. The uppers. Nice and easy if it was just making a little bezel like that, but yep, just a little test fit, so I know it's not warped too far or anything like that. If it fits the other bucket, it obviously has to fit the car. This car hasn't got any damage at the back here. So I've made the upper, made the backing plate, and I previously had the front piece, which I'll probably remake. So let's get it all joined together. Obviously impossible to hold with one hand, but that's the majority of it together. So yeah, so a few tacks on these pieces, and ready to maybe tack the front on. I think I might put this on before I make the base, or I make the base first, a bit unsure. So I cut my flat base, and I I just turn the edges over a smidge on this, and it's good to go. Well, got it tacked together, fits good. It's just going to warp like buggery welding it together, that's what I know. So I laid some boogers on there. I don't do stainless, so no cup, no foot pedal, just rubbish that's going to get sanded off. So I don't know the first thing about stainless or polishing it, so I've just got it to 80, and I've got a long way to learn, I think. But it fits, just needs little tweaks here and there where there's a wobble. But, I don't know, can't argue with that. Because if I made them out of mild steel, I'd still have to get the surface perfect for chroming anyway, so I figure if I'm going to go to that effort of making it perfect surface, I may as well make them out of stainless, and that way I can polish them and that's it, they stay mint, don't rust out under the chrome and end up like that. I know these corner welds are going to chew the die grinder pieces up, so I might leave those to last. I'm not even going to bother fully welding the backside, just going to leave it tacked. It's going to get all cut out to hold the lens and the bulb, but I'm probably going to retrofit an LED strip in there behind the lens, because there's no need to run that massive big section with the stock bulb and stuff in there. It's like, what's the point? Just run modern LED. So test fit with the originals, and you can see that the top is much bigger and it actually gets really slim along through the bottom edge there. So I've still got to trim mine down. Mine's still fat the whole way, but it's real slim on the bottoms. Now test fitting the one that I've made. Just needs little tweaks here and there, but the bar is obviously bent and preventing it from being able to come down. So this bar needs to be fixed in this area. So just the outer welded up. Yes, the TIGs are extremely ugly. I don't do stainless, and it's not about looking good. I'm sanding it all off. So yeah, no cup, no foot pedal, literally sitting on a tyre. Just welding it together. Now I've only taken them to 80 grit on the flapper, and I'll worry about polishing them up, getting right in the edges and stuff a bit later on. It's not really something that's priority right now. I just wanted to actually copy them so I have a full set. And now I'll worry about polishing those and fine-tuning all those once the car's in the bodywork stage. It's not something that's a priority at the moment. But now I'll move on to actually fixing these ones, because yeah, there's a lot of see-through bits and there's not meant to be holes. But yeah, they do fit. Just need the backing plate and the mount system all made for them, but that can be done at a later date. Alrighty, so starting the repairs on Richard's taillight surrounds. Very sad conditions. So I have made the first piece which is going to go on there and took all my measurements, because I know it's going to move like crazy. Luckily I have made the other set now so that I can compare to them, and I have a car that's not damaged and can jig them in the car. But I'll see how this first one goes. If it moves too much for my liking, I'm going to make a base plate that bolts this on, and then I'll just make like a jig that supports the actual frame where it needs to be. But it is wobbly and a mess to begin with, so I don't think that's any benefit. I'm doing it in 2 stages because I don't really want to separate it completely. I'm just going to do the top half, pack that in place, and then do that bottom piece there just so it doesn't separate, and I move the piece away from its relative location there. So yeah, annoying and very delicate to do something like this, but it's got to be done. Extremely fiddly thing to hold, so I've used the gross MIG to just do some tacks to hold it in place for me. I'm going to buzz all those off and TIG that in, obviously. So I've just got to do this base section now. I keep routinely walking over to the car and checking that it still fits, as well as having my measurements across so I know the actual distance of it. But I know that it still fits. So before I cut that out and add that section, I might just do a few TIG stitches just around it, just to hold it. Just a bit nervous that it's going to move. This is almost impossible. So as I've TIG'd it, it's left a crater on this edge here, at the top edge. So So I'm filling that crater with the MIG because it's so impossible. It's so thin that it just wants to blow out. So it's going to be a painful process, this one. 12 o'clock. Been on this thing since 8:30. So Jesus. It's very, very fiddly and time consuming. Alright, so some MIG tacks on there to hold it. And ready to TIG up all the edges now, do the whole backside. And that doesn't really matter because the gasket sits there and then the lens takes up like 10 mil, so I probably won't have to worry about this joint too much. Alright, so bottom half welded. That is such a challenge. It's so thin. I've never worked with something so delicate. So got to do the perimeter now. Also doesn't matter about this area, I can leave a lot of the weld blob there. I'll probably give it a quick grind, but a rubber gasket goes there. So yeah, it doesn't have to be too great on that edge. So that is one, all sanded to 80 grit, and as good as it's going to get really. As I said, rubber gasket goes in here, and this side doesn't matter either, because rubber gasket goes along this face, and then the lens to show it against the actual bucket. So yeah, the bucket goes in there, then a rubber gasket, and then the actual lens. So yeah, a lot of it is actually taken up. I don't think there's any rubber left on any of these, so there is on this one. Alright, same as last time, top side done, bottom piece is tacked in now, so I'll go and TIG that in. Cool, so the end of Monday, got 2 done, so they're pretty much ready. Do these other 2 in the morning. Be the same deal, very pitted around the whole perimeter, so same thing. Alright, third one is now done to 80, just roughed out, so I'm going to go in the finer details at the end on all of them, just go over and check them all thoroughly, but I just want to get this one to the same point. Sweet, so they're all sorted now. Finished at 2:30 today, so that's 3.5 hours quicker than yesterday to do the other 2, so, and they were bigger too, so the first day was the small ones and then today was the big ones. So I'll just fiddle around, just grind any little lumps off like that, even though it doesn't matter. Just may as well use the free time that I got and just yeah, just tidy them up. Ready to go to the chromers. So just test fitting them in the car. Fitting good, just to make sure before picked up. And I think it's this one. And bumper bars in the way. Sweet, so we know they fit. Happy days. Cool, so they're getting picked up in the morning. I've got to find the bonnet latch of my car, which looks like this. There's a Cosmo getting built in Melbourne that needs one, and I know I have mine somewhere. I've taken it off because I've changed my bonnet setup, so I'm going to dig through some boxes and find that. Another interesting difference I noticed between Series 1 and Series 2, in Series 2 the bulb is here and the bucket isn't that deep, it's very short, the bulb's almost inside here. And the reason they've done that is because when they moved the wheelbase back, the boot became extremely small, and the spare wheel well actually pushes out into the beaver. So if you've ever looked at a Series 2, it actually bulges out the beaver because the spare wheel had to move back. I think it was 150 mil. Pretty crazy. Little differences. Now for the catch, I'm going to use a 1200 one, so that'll go somewhere around there. And there is just symmetrical little issues here and there to tidy up on the radiuses and stuff, but we'll get to that once the skin comes back off. And the catch itself will sit here. So when it does open and shut, obviously overhanging, can't really turn the skin over any further while it's not permanent. So yeah, pull that skin back off there now, and I'm going to start putting the catch setup on there. Now I've noticed once they welded this front end back on bodgily, it's all busted off the whole way along. So I'm going to drill all that out and take the whole nose off completely, because they've cut and shut it through here. So this will all be getting remade no matter what. Nose cone may be savable in some spots, but yeah, it's heavily pitted in other spots, so I'll see. I've already made the nose cone for this one, so I can make another. Now that I have buttons off the rotisserie, I can focus on pulling this damage out and then remaking this upper and lower using my car as a reference. It's non-damaged. So I'll get to shuffling some things around and I'll get this spun around so I can have the two side by side when I'm pulling it. So now that I've got the sunroof frame the perfect shape, it's mimicking the roof properly. So I can cut this out now, which is obviously not long enough anymore. So this has got to be extended to here. It's also not long enough, it's holding the roof a bit flat. It needs to be about 10 mil longer. And that way I can finish my end of it. Finish capping the end of it off and make all the mounts to actually mount the frame in there again. But it is opening and closing fine. It's going too far forward because I've got no rubbers or stops on there. But yeah, new sunroof skin I've got to make as well. So I'll make another skin for this and it should be good. Now with the catch, because on a normal car the bonnet is the furthest point of the car, so you can actually reach under and grab. With this one, because the bonnet's in this so far past the front of the car, I'm going to have to make the mechanism also grab that. So when you use the cable mechanism to open that, I'm going to have to put like another arm there that's going to bump this out of the way at the same time as you pull the cable. Otherwise run two cables in there and one pulls that. As you pull it a bit further, it opens that up like a BMW. Sorry, my voice is breaking up crazy then. The other alternative is to do it either side, like an old Beamer, but I just prefer to do it in the center. That's why I made this shape, so that it can go in the center. For now, I'm just going to lop that off. It is bad condition anyway, it's all seized up and stuff, so it's just my dummy one. I can order a new one once I actually finalize it. There's that orange sweat again. So weird, it's like staining my body. So here's my rough template here, but it's going to come along here, drop down about 50 mil and taper back in to the sides, which will give me a 50 mil drop here for the catch and tie back into this nose cone. Because that nose cone, if you can see, put the flash on, is all gone. So I need to recreate all of this because it is all a mess. So I'll be redoing all these sides once the whole nose cone and stuff comes off. But if I make the bonnet catch area work, I can tie it into the rails and then I've got reference points that it goes back in the exact same spot. This is one of those builds where you've got to do little nibbles on everything so that it all ties in together. You got to like forethought 10 steps ahead, like alright, I've got to make that before I can do any of this and any of this, because it's yeah, you can either go full steam, build something 100% in there, and then a month later you realize it doesn't work and it clashes with the next process. Now you can probably see what's going on, that sharp fold that's along there, coming in off that and tapering down to 50 mil. That'll be my drop. Now I have to do this in two pieces, which will be this top section, which will be to shrink and stretch edges to get two flanges on there, and then this will be a flat piece, because alternatively I could cut this out of one piece and then tip a little flange there, but it would be a nightmare. It will try and buckle this too much, so I'll just do it in two pieces. So there's that 25 mil flange, and that's why I've got my template here, which is the shape of the bonnet opening. Now I'll go to the shrinker and kick shrink that edge till it matches the flange. That way I've got my 50 mil drop, I can taper it off into nothing. So I'm about halfway now. Just keep using your template, put it on there, draw it with chalk where you got to start shrinking for the next radius. So I have the main piece bolted in, 3 bolts. This is my base, the medium tipping wheel, the flat section, and the hard lower. And I'm going to use these dies to give it a radius edge. Could also be achieved by using the bead roller and a large radius die with the soft lower wheel, but if you got the machine, why not use it? And depending on how far you set it up in the machine, you can go 45. In my case, I want to go 45 and then 45 the other, and I'll join on the middle of the radius. So it's only 45 at the moment, but I'm going to go something like that. And obviously only the center will be like 50 mil, the sides will taper back out into nothing. You see, the further you push it in, the more of a radius you'll get. So the center, I want the center to be pretty much 90, and then the edges I want to be 45. So you just gradually feed it in and out accordingly. And of course, using the stretch method instead of shrinking it with the thumbnail shrinks, it's just created a lot of mess, and it's arcing it. I do need a little bit of an arc here anyway, so I'm just going to manually tidy it all up here with the hammer and dolly just by using one of these. So getting closer to what I want it to do. Just all roughed in at the moment. Just got to tidy up, make it all blend in nice. Now just MIG 2 little ears on, just so that I can cleco it to the skirts themselves, and then worry about getting this joined together. Otherwise, it just, every time you put it in and out, it goes in a different spot, could end up cocked. It's just not worth it, so I just rather do 2 little reference tabs on there, then I'll get this joined to the next piece and then pull it out and weld it up. So I have the latch bolted in and clicked down, and that will tell me the height that it needs to be so that I can scribe the line and join those 2 pieces together. So if I pop this, you'll see, the scribe line is just there. So I've got to take this front piece out, trim that up and dig it together, and then I can worry about doing this flange here, how I want it to look. To solve the issue of not being able to get your finger in there, I'll just extend that little lock rod so that it actually comes down further. That way the bonnet will pop up more and allow you to get your finger on a flange there to release it. Well, it works. So that's just MIG tack together. So now I can do the return flange on this, which will go down and blend it into here nicely. So I'll probably do my radiator fill point somewhere in here, maybe something else on the other side. Maybe something similar here, so I've got fill point and overflow bottle, but I'll do those as a circle, a full circle into here, sunk right in. So I've removed the section of the quarter I've made, just going to paint strip a lot of this chunky stuff off. I'm about to sandblast the car. She's been many colours, this old girl. So you got the original red primer, then it was white, original colour, then it got painted blue, and then red, and then silver, and then white again. So it's a lot of layers there. So as expected, the whole line is loaded end to end with lead under the red oxides. This is done at the factory because steel doesn't scratch like that. So yeah, the line was that terrible from the factory that they've loaded the whole thing end to end with lead. Pretty crazy. Made quite the mess, and as you can see, it's very pitted. So obviously this car is pretty much like an 80% rebody that I'll remake the whole thing, same as this one. But I just want to get it blasted and it's all in one color. It just looks so much better visually, and to be able to measure things, we're not having 10 layers of paint all over it. So yeah, I just want to get it all blasted and just all one color, probably just epoxy white, and that way I can see what I'm looking at a lot better. So unpicking the last things before it gets blasted, and as you can see, the headlight bucket on that side is toast, and the top of the fender there is really bashed down, so from when it's had a hit. So I'm going to unpick this inner, what's left of it anyway. I've remade most of it a while back, so I would remake the back section, but yeah, I'll unpick it. It's just bodgily MIG'd along the edges factory, so it should pop out pretty easy. And while it's out, I should have good access to knock this area back up to the shape it's got to be, because the front is extremely weak and the quarter's pushed in here. So yeah, there's a lot of crash damage here to assess, and get the thing actually straightened up. Alright, so it's getting blasted on Tuesday, so 2 days away. We're going to remake this back piece for the actual roof itself, and then remake this and bring it further forward, obviously because it's so short now, and it is the wrong arc. So the arc actually has to go up a touch. So yeah, I want to remake this roof inner. So drill all these spots out, remake that, get that welded on, and then remake the back half of the sunroof with all the drain. This drain will be running down in the pillar, and then I can get all blasted all on the inside of the roof. Obviously everything here is getting remade, but I just want it all blasted in one colour so I can see what I'm looking at. And there we go, across the inner is off. So now I can get blasted up in that edge. Once I unbolt the sunroof, it'll just dust over the inside of the roof as well. And this will be next, where they've bodgily put another front clip on this car and just done the old lap and tack. I'm drilling all this out. I'm going to take this whole front clip off. That way I can get access up into these areas up in here that all need to be remade. So once the clip's off, I'll have access to all the upper pillar areas and stuff, and I can address this bodgy little MIG tack situation. There's not much holding it on now. I've took off whatever was left here for the headlight buckets, and that just ties that into the frame. But it's just all spot welds along here now, and that's the only thing holding it left is these areas. So once they're off, I can take the whole clip off. And I want the whole thing off because I want to blast the whole underside of it. It's all pretty rotted everywhere, and it's only festering inside that joint there. So everywhere that it's been overlapped, it's just it's really unhappy and just starting to blister through. So best to get on top of that now. And the crash damage is fairly obvious here, where it's really crumpled and bunched up. It's actually split and it's tore the whole way along those pillars on both sides there. So pretty dangerous if that's not addressed. In saying that, the entire car is split end to end. It's tearing apart. Yeah, so that's all got to be sorted out. Essentially be remaking 90% of this car. So making this inner piece for the back of the screen. So just a single fold on a piece, and then use the kick shrinker to give it the arc. So I need it to go the arc of this, but now I need it to get the arc of the roof. So I need to stretch the top, shrink the bottom. So I'll start stretching this top edge now, and I'll see where it goes, and it'll want to pull and move this around as I go, so you have to keep switching between shrink and stretch so you get the desired shape. So that is the inner brace remade for the roof skin. So getting that ready to be spotted on, and then these side pieces are going to incorporate the drain, so they'll be separate little pieces to join to here. It was an overlap factory to about here, so I'll replicate that, but yeah, incorporate the drain. So that. There it goes. So yeah, just replicates the roof shape and it tucks up next to it with that bit of extra support. Because what I pulled off was only slightly crusty, not too crusty, but yeah, it's seen better days. And now I'll be able to finish the end of the drain bucket for the sunroof. So I'll make the end of the bucket there and extend it up further, because it obviously doesn't reach the opening anymore, so it's got to come to about here. So I'll remake this piece here. I've toyed about making these in the pullmax, making two little ribs there just so it interlocks, and it doesn't really need it, but might as well. And then just shoot my drains down the side and it should be good. Now I do have it bolted here, but I'm probably going to put two more just for peace of mind. It's just such a pretty flimsy roof, like there's not much roof there, so any support I can help to tie it all together will probably help it a lot. So I've got the base of the sunroof just tacked in place roughly, and got my drains in the corners where they need to be. So I can now pull it out and unpick it all, prime it all, bead roll this with some strengthening ribs and stuff in it, and that way I know how it's meant to be. And I also tacked up my little cuts to give my sunroof the arc. So yeah, now I'll unbolt it and weld it all up. So that's the sunroof assembly out, sitting over there, and that's the Rio piece that this edge gets tipped over and plug welded to. So I've got that all out at the moment, that way it can all get dusted over, and that way I get a good nice epoxy on everything, especially this back edge here. It's pretty rotted, and then I can focus on tipping the edge, sharpen it up a little bit, because the gaps on this car are pretty rounded, like all the openings are pretty rounded. So I'll only sharpen it just a little bit, and then assemble it all. Should be happy days. Now I probably won't have time to finish the sunroof and get it blasted on the same day. It's Sunday today, and it's at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's getting blasted Tuesday. So I don't know, I might spend the day tomorrow and just finish off the sunroof and then pull it apart. That way it can get all blasted at once, and I can epoxy everything, and it's just a nice fit up. So mind the mess, but going to be tigging the sunroof frame for the lid together, and everything else is pretty much prepped. I finished the sunroof drain tray this morning, so I cut up the original back, and then I put it in the linear dies on the machine just to give it the arc that it needs. So I stretched all the backside. That's just all welded together now. I'm just run it through the bead roller to give it the same beads on there, and I will give it one more once I figure out what interior light I want. So I'll jump off this bead here, I'll come along and I'll put like an interior light one in there for a recess. But just prepping this to get sandblasted. That's the old lid just joined together, so I've got a reference, so I can make a new one of these. That's with the original roof skin from the Cosmo just tacked on top, so I've got a reference. And this is the frame that goes in the car that the actual sunroof lip gets spot welded to. So yeah, pretty much have everything apart now, so that I can get it all blasted, get it all in epoxy, and then put it all back together layer by layer. So yeah, get this snapped together now, and then I should be able to make a new lid off the top of it, on top of this, once I use that as a template. Well, sandblasting in the morning, so last time I'll see it all raw, and hopefully there's some metal left. Alright, so sandblasted, and I just epoxied it then. Windiest day on earth. We've actually got a cyclone warning today until Thursday, so yeah, painted everything, but came out quite dry. It was pretty hard to actually get it to spray on the car itself, so that will do. Alright, back on its wheels, so I'm going to roll it back inside now, and yeah, before this rain comes and ruins my day. Well, it's back in the shed, and just got it all mock back up, just everything back on it, take up less floor space, and I'll probably assemble the sunroof once it dries off, give it a day or two, and I'll put that the sunroof Rio in, which is this, and spot it on around the perimeter, and then lock this hem over 100%, because at the moment it's about 70-80. It's nearly there, but I really got to flatten it off. So can really see how bad she is. It's a full rebody, I knew that, but yeah, pretty much I knew all these areas would come up because it is tearing apart at this joint here, both sides. So yeah, it's full pillars, inner, outer, everything really, no surprises. But at least we can distinguish between the three now. So I got mine, Richard's one, which was black, obviously already done. Then got Barden's, which is the green epoxy. And then yeah, it's much easier to follow along which car's which. And now that I can see exactly what I'm working with here, it's a much nicer template. I can actually see, because before it was just so orange and so much flaky, patchy rubbish. So yeah, a lot of damage to address as well. That bottom of the headlight here, flattened off, so it needs to be bumped all up. So I noticed that when I pulled the actual headlight bucket out, but the headlight bucket will give you an indication of what the car is like. Submerged for 30 years. Fun. So we're going to start assembling the sunroof setup now onto the drain tray. Obviously this is going to get pulled back off and seam sealer and stuff all added, but I obviously need to dry set it all up again in the car, and then I'll pull it all back down because it unbolts now. It's not a permanent sunroof like my other cars. Then I can paint it all and add the interior light piece that I want to add, because I want to do another bead here and then figure out an old interior light that I like. Now in order to make these pillar pieces, it's got a little template here of the die I'm going to create, male and female, and I'll pretty much just run like a single fold on a piece, and then I'll shrink it to suit the arc of this, and that way it will let me run it, because the die will press all this in, but it just needs to know where to run. If you leave it straight, it'll press it straight, but if you put the arc in first into the little 90, it should let me get that pillar arc straight off the bat. And then there's obviously another arc this way, so I should be able to stretch this edge, but we'll see. I might have to pre-stretch this edge before I run it in the die and shrink this edge, so be a little bit of trial and error, but I think I'll get it. So there's my template. Chuck that on some 10mm plate, use the scissors, cut it out, and now I've got my male and female sides of the die. So I'll put those in these die holders and do a few trial runs and see what it comes up with. So that's run through the die. First little test piece, just a piece of rusty scrap, and fits perfect. So now I've just got to figure out how to tweak it to get the correct arc, like shrink the first little fold and then see how it goes. But yeah, pretty good. The reason I didn't check it on this side is I've got the chrome trim in the way. So I'll go have some lunch and then I'm going to tinker with that. So I've cut some little 100mm strips just to replicate test pieces, and I want to see if I can get this out of one piece. I know it'll be tricky, but I just want to see what the corner will do. So I've just done my little 90 and then just shrunk right there. So I just want to see what the die will do when it drives around that corner. I don't think it's going to work, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do it in two pieces and do my join there, but can't hurt to try. So yeah, didn't really like that, so I wanted to bunch up. So there's two options there, is I can either pre-stretch this area here and see what it does, or I can just run it as a piece and I'll just do a slit on here, bend it around, tick it together, and then run it back through the die just to blend that area up. So here's my first attempt. Now I've marked the fold line and I've just gave it a shrink on the edge on both these pieces just to give it a bit of an arc that it needs, but I still need to stretch the other side to give it this shape here. So I'm going to give it a bit of pre-stretch in this area here and see what it does. So here's my pre-stretch being done on this face, just to give it the arc it needs this way. So I get that sorted. The only one I think is not going to work is this here, needs to be shrunk, but I think I'm going to do it first and then I'll slice it, because I can't get it to curve inwards just that little bit more. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, if it doesn't work this way, I'm just going to use the tipping die to do this actual flange manually. So I'll tip that with the curve in it and then I'll turn it all over by hand, and that might save stretching this face. So there's a few ways to do it, but I'll just see how this way works first. So it fits. I did cut and TIG the corner together just on that there. Fits pretty good. Just going to mark and scribe this next tip. So that's first attempt. Pretty good and successful, I think. So fits on there perfect. So I'll probably do the other side the same. And then make this piece here, which is another turn and then overlap. And thankfully this pillar area is the same shape, so I'll be able to make this piece as well. And this is something that I always try and do it the largest one piece that you can. Multiple piece, fair enough, but as big of a patch as you can do. If you can do the whole replacement piece like factory, do it that way, because doing little bodgy MIG welded little patches on everywhere is just junk, because this is compromised metal, and if it's rusty here, it's rusty here because the water's traveled down. So yeah, doing little patched quilted blanket rubbish, not my style. Alright, so next pillar piece, I've pre-stretched this area here, got the correct arc that I want, so I'm going to run through the dies now. So same deal as last time, just slit the corner and tigged it up. Need to get a smaller little die grinder bit just to get that weld, but do pretty good. So it's clear coat on, and there we go, clear coat on, happy. So I can make this piece, join it on, same as the last quarter that I made it for. Everywhere else is good. The only other thing I've got to make is just like a little die to stamp the recess in that holds these. Obviously you can't see it because I've got these bloody things on, don't I? There's like a little circle recess. Oh yeah, you can probably see it on the other car actually. And obviously factory Mazda, they'd never put them in the center of the hole for the trims, they were just wherever they wanted to that day. But if I just make a little male and female die that I can just squash together to give those recesses, then those pieces will be nice and as factory as possible. So just sharpening the lip up just a smidge with the hammer and dolly, and just a flat chisel just for the corners and for the flat areas. So just to sharpen the point up a little bit. It doesn't have to go too sharp because all the body openings on this are very rounded. So I'll probably match it to that. I won't really sharpen it right up like a modern car. So I have the sunroof Rio to slip back in under that hem, and I'm going to go along and start spotting it to the roof skin itself and get my grubby little paws all over it, fingerprints everywhere. So the sunroof originally like glued on and then slipped into like a little locking tab at the very back, but I've changed that. I've taken the glue out of there and now I've drilled and tapped the actual frame itself, so I bolt that in from the underside. And I just used the excess piece to put my bolts in to chop them down, easier than holding the bolt. So yeah, get all that bolted back in, and I'm going to put the sunroof assembly back in before I spot this together, because I just want to make sure it's in the right spot. If it needs little tweaks here and there, I'd rather it be all in and I see how it all sits, because if once I lock that in, that's it. So yeah, I'm going to get this bolted in and check back in. Alright, sunroof assembly is bolted back in, and that just uses the brackets I made previously. Still got to finish the front drains off. And the backs, use those brackets that bolt in, and the drain tray goes all the way up to the top of the roof, and my drains will run down the pillar area, down out through the wheels. So I can now sheet all this area in once I've got this sunroof bolted in. I know what is actually happening. And this back piece that I made, that can get put in and spotted to the roof, and then it's going to get joined to dissociating sheet metal around here, around this drain area. So I'm probably about halfway through the sunroof lid itself. This was my template. So I've put the original roof skin on top of the old sunroof, and that was my template to get the shape that I actually needed. So I'm pretty happy with it. Just needs a bit more shape in the center, I think. I'm going to bolt it into the car, and then I can really see what's going on, but I'm pretty sure it just needs a little bit more in the center. So I'll get it bolted into these runners, and then it'll show me what it needs once it's actually bolted in, and we can see what the center is actually doing. So get this bolted up now. So I have the lid bolted back in now. Still need a touch more shape through the middle. It is fitting okay. This needs to be played with. Pretty tricky shape, but it is functional. So I'm at the point where I could start locking in this Rio. So there's the roof skin, just to give you an indication of the shape that's actually in it. Ready to go back on now, I hope. So I've turned this other edge here, which is acting as a drain, so any water that comes down the back of the roof there gets trapped and gets sent down into the side drains. So sit that back in. Get that bolted in now. So lid's back in after adding some shape to the center. Now it's fitting pretty good everywhere. Some slight little tweaks here, and in the center of the actual car, roof needs to come up a smidge on the front edge there. But other than that, fitting pretty well. Can't really complain with that. Very tricky shape, that one. Still functioning, so. Whole lot of work in that, over a day in just the lid, so yeah, this stuff takes a lot of time, and it's still not even done yet. I haven't finished welding the actual Rio in, haven't welded the lid to the actual sunroof frame yet or anything, so long way to go, but getting there. I don't know why you'd spend a day making a sunroof lid when you can just fucking chuck a few tacks on here, mate. Bit of mud, happy days. Now I'm going to leave the sunroof assembly alone for now. I'm not going to bother welding the Rio or anything in. I want to check front and rear windows before I go any further. This spot here just looks a little funny. So before I weld that Rio on the inside and do all the drain area and stuff, I just want to check the back window. And I don't think that's arriving for a few more weeks. So when that arrives, I'll continue on with that. And I'm pretty much just going to jump back on this bonnet latch area. So get it out, unbolted, get rid of all the primer off there, and finish that weld, and then start finishing these side infill panels in. So got that piece zapped together. Now a bit unsure of what style I want to do these side infill pieces, so I'm just going to do just a tip along there and then see how it looks. I'll probably end up changing it. Knowing me, I'm very indecisive on things like that, so I'll see what pattern I like best. So just taking these side panels out now. There's just clecos in the rail and there's bolts up the top here. I've got these little water dragons zooming around in the workshop. They love it. It's like a fair few baby ones. I think there's like 4 or 6. The big. So about to chop the second bonnet Rio up. It's just too flimsy in this area to support the catch. So I'm going to add the beads to go to the center. And just chop and change from the first one I did, just chop and change pieces out of that and TIG them into this and come up with something. Otherwise just redesign the whole thing. But I'll give it a go by cutting pieces out of this and see if I can join it all together. Alright, so passenger side, I'm going to do the same. Make both of these pieces here. Now same as the other side, we'll stretch this face here to give it that arc. And then I've got to shrink this edge here to give it the curve it needs this way. So no point showing the stretching process, it's just in here for like 15 minutes. We'll stretch it out. after about 10-15 minutes in there, you can see it is no longer flat. And just forward and back to the car, get it to the right arc, and now I can start putting it in the dies. And it'll start putting that shape into it, this step. But now that it's actually locked in on that arc, it won't deform to that, so you can run it through the die. So this is now ready to go in this die set, and it will just be multiple passes. It'll be a pass at this height, wind the screw up, another pass until they're pretty much touching, and that'll be the perfect shape. So that's it after coming out of the die set, and as you can see, so that's it coming out of the die set, and as we can see, perfect shape. So now I've got a slit here, and turn that corner over. So the reason I've left it so long like this side is that I can tip this edge here and just make this piece easier for myself to make. The more you make on each piece, the easier the next piece is. So at least with this patch, I only have to make that panel come to here. I don't have to worry about tipping this edge on that panel, because once I press the little screw divots into this, you don't want to be trying to do a TIG join along there where there's divots and stuff. You want the join to be on this side. And then same as the other side, mark and tip the next edge. Now I'm going to pause on this because it's Monday morning and I need to move my car out of the way and get a customer's RX3 in. So the door skin has a little wobble in it, the line, and I'm going to try and use the pullmax to address that, and I don't see it ending well. Every time I've tried to do this, I've made a massive mess. So we'll see if we turn this into scrap metal, eh? So I've got the door skin roughed out now. The line is at like 80%. It still needs to come out a smidge more in the center of the door to get the arc of the car correct. And I've obviously got to do the handle recess as well, which I'll do that last. But I've just tweaked the dies a little bit more just to sharpen it up a smidge more. It's just not what I want it to be yet. So I've just tweaked the dies again, and I'm going to unbolt this out of the car, put it back in the pullmax, and do my final run, I hope. I'm just going to stretch this out by hand manually on the sandbag. Just put a spade here and just bump the line out and stretch this area of the steel out as well, and then run it through the dies for the final time. So it came up pretty good. I'm fairly happy with how the line is. Just the ends where the die could only reach to here before it clashes. Just got to touch this bit up manually, just with a little die, and just sit that in there and just hammer and dolly the edges. Done this side. So just to sharpen that up, just at the very ends. But other than that, fitting pretty good. It's just a bit of shape to address here and there, tidy up. But I can't do too much on the edge until I actually have a door shell. So until I've got a door shell, I won't continue further, but I might add the handle pocket recess. So this is the handle pocket I'm talking about. I'm going to make a few templates, just end to end, and length, and then off the body line to the top of the door and such. Mark it on here, get to whacking. So templated, marked the body line each end and the perimeter of the actual door skin. So I'll transfer that now to this one. Alright, so marked on there. Now it's going to take a tremendous amount of stretch. I remember doing my 1200 door, which is the pocket up here. That was pretty deep, but the Cosmo one is much deeper. So, and that took a lot of stretch. So what I'll be doing is using the mallet to hit this area in and do laps, and then stretch this area out with hammer and dolly as I go. So a bit of stretch here, a bit of stretch here to pull, because the shape's going to want to push down and contort downwards. So stretch this out, pump this back up, stretch this down, pump back up, and just keep doing laps until I get the right shape. So just after a few hits, you can see it's starting to distort the surrounding metal. So I'll start to stretch that up, do a few more laps, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Takes a long time. Now I did try and video up top, but the camera actually fell off the cabinet from the shaking. So yeah, I'm not going to do that again. Alright, little break for my arms. It's coming along, so probably about 30% of the way, I think. And yes, you probably could make that piece separately and then weld it in, but I don't know, that's cheating to me. I like to try and get things out of one piece as much as I can before I give up and go multiple piece. Now I'm going to take it over to the English wheel. This area here is a bit low. Everywhere else seems alright, but it's pulling into this area here. So let's take it over to the wheel and make a mess of it. Every time I put something in the wheel that is as close as this, I turn it into a complete bit of scrap. So that's at about 80% now. A little bit more to sort out. So I'm just going to fit the handle to it and just make sure the handle's still fitting good. So I have the skin just clear coated to the car and fits pretty terrible. Just needs a lot of work in this area here and along this edge. But I'm not 100% where that is yet, if it needs to come up or down a smidge until I get a door shell. So I'm probably not going to touch much else until I get an actual door shell. I really don't want to make one, but I'll probably just leave it as is until I get a shell. That way I'm not wasting my time by tweaking things that might be okay. But to make that shell is that's a big job. So I really don't want to make that at all. Really don't want to. So I'd rather find a pair of really rubbish doors. That way I've got all the reg, all the winder set up and stuff like that, and a shell, and I can just repair whatever needs to be repaired on the shell. So setting it at the level which is pointing up of the front body line, end to end, we're starting to lose half of the body line, and by the time we get to the end, we're halfway in the wrong spot. So the body line is half out by the time it gets all the way to the end of the car. Very strange. Now I thought maybe it's the pieces you put on, you might have stuffed it up and skewed it, but no, I'm lined up on the body line edge to edge there. As we go along, we're losing the body line by half, get to the middle, we're already half out. And then by the time we get back to the end, nearly lining back up again, and we're slightly above it right at the end. But keep in mind this is a lot of lead here as well, so that might be a few mil out there. But yeah, very strange body line, not straight at all. Now the next update for this car will be finishing off the bonnet, attaching it to the skin. It now opens this way instead of reverse. It will be fitting the sills that I've made previously, making all this dog leg and stuff, same as the other side, finishing off the pillar areas, doing the rear rails, doing some center rails, mounting the engine and gearbox. So 30mm Bridgeport, 6-speed RX-8 gearbox. Other than that, rolls and steers fine. I just need to piece it together a bit more. But I've been bidding on a complete car, just another rusty one, but it's complete. And it's got a lot of stuff on there that I'm actually missing. So hopefully I can win that, and it'll really speed the process up of finishing this car. Because I've been making everything that I don't have, and making things takes a long time. Now obviously this car is a long-term project to me, but this was a state of 90% of the car, and that's why it is a complete rebody. Because I thought Barden's car was bad and rusty, but considering mine, the entire floor fell out. This one has partial floor and rails, but on mine the entire floor fell out. And for instance, his pillar areas are pitted slightly, whereas mine are torn. My whole car is actually cracked and torn in several places, all through here. So the car is literally falling apart. Like it's actually falling to bits. So I thought that one was actually the rustiest Cosmo I've seen, but this one takes the cake by far with how bad it is structurally. So the roof is extremely weak, all the pillars are weak, every join has split and cracked. So this one is a complete remake and rebody of 90% of the car. No getting away with little migged on patches here and there. This is full quarters, full boot skin, whole rear piece, beaver, remaking all this. It's I don't mig up little pitted areas like that. It's just not worth the risk later on. It comes back to bite you in 10 years. So yeah, just thought I'd add that little bit of extra information in there, just for anyone thinking it was just going to be a little bugs up and bog over. This is I'm in this one for the long haul. And it's as much of a skill test as it is a learning curve for me. If I want to learn how to make things, I do them for myself and self-learn, because I'm all self-taught. No one's ever showed me how to do anything, so I do things the way I think is correct, and 90% of the time it's the wrong way, and I end up having to figure out the correct way to do it, or a way that works. So yeah, don't take anything I do as the right way to do it, because this is just how I think it should be done, and I just guess my way through life. And I will be jumping back on Barden's this year and doing the other side. The other side's crashed and actually caved in. So now that it's off the rotisserie and just on caster wheels, I can pull this area back out and use my car as a reference to get it all straight again, and then remake this. So if you're still watching this rambling piece together video, thank you, and we'll hopefully continue operations as normal from here on. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.